What is one of the creepiest things a kid has ever said to you? I'll go first. When my daughter was almost
Hello friends, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to my YouTube channel. So in today's video, we'll be talking about what is the creepiest thing a kid has said to you. Have you ever had a kid saying something to you that sent chills down your spine? I'm talking about those moments wondering if you are in a scene straight out of a horror movie, the kind of thing that makes you take a little second and think about it, just to make sure you're not being someone. So I've put the videos together so that you watch and learn. I'll be back to share my true sense.
What is one of the creepiest things a kid has ever said to you? I'll go first. When my daughter was almost 3 years old, she told me and my godmother a story. We were at my godmother's house and we were working on a Halloween/birthday costume for my daughter. We're taking her measurements and cutting fabric, and she randomly looks at us and she asks us where her mom is. I tell her, "You're being crazy. Like, I'm your mama. What are you talking about?" Thought maybe she was confused because I call my mom, so maybe she's looking for her grandma. While I'm saying I'm your mama, she cuts me off and says, "Oh, she's dead." Me and my godmother are looking at each other like, what? My daughter told us my mom is unalive and I live with my aunt. And where's my aunt? I'm like, hold on, what are you talking about? She straight up tells us that she was alive in 1438. She's probably telling us some weird shit about a past life, so I start questioning her. She keeps making sounds that are like Thessaloniki, and she says that her name is Arthnasanya. I'm writing everything down because I'm like, this is freaking crazy and I don't want to forget it. Because she didn't speak very well, I don't know what the hell she was talking about. I tried to do research on the places and the names that she mentioned, but I couldn't find anything. So if there is a town called like Thessaloniki or something in 1438, let me know. She told me her aunt was really mean to her and that her aunt ended up unaliving too. And that was it. She just stopped talking about it. And I kept trying to like ask her more questions and she wouldn't say anything else. It was just like she had this little brain moment that just sped off a whole bunch of random information and then it completely shut off after that. She's 9 now and she has no recollection of any of this.
TikTok parents, tell me the creepiest thing your kid has ever said to you. I'll go first. So when my daughter was around 3, almost 4 years old, I walked by her room and like I always do, I went in to kind of check her out and see what she was doing. And she said, "Oh, hi, Mommy." And I said, "Hi, honey, what you doing?" She said, "Oh, I'm playing with Raina." I said, "Oh, okay." So I walked away, didn't think anything of it, you know. Then a couple days later, I went back and she was again in her room and I went up to her and I said, "Hey baby, what you doing?" And she said, "Hi Mommy, I'm playing with Raina again." And I said, this time a little more curious, I said, "Hey baby, who's Raina?" And she said, "Oh, she's my friend." And I said, "Okay." I said, "Is she someone you know at school?" And she said, "No, she's just my friend and she's playing with me." I said, "Okay." And anyways, let it go. Then, you know, a few weeks later, she said, "Hey, Mommy, I'm playing with Raina again today." And I said, "Oh, okay." I said, "Again, baby, who is Raina?" And she said, "Just a friend of mine, Mommy. She likes to hang out with me a lot." And I said, "Okay, all right." And so I was a little bit more curious at this point. So I went to her school and I went and visited with her teacher. And I said, "Hey, out of curiosity, do you have anyone in the class named Raina?" And they said, "No, we don't have anybody in the class named Raina. We don't have anyone in the school named Raina." It was a pretty small school at the time. And I said, "Okay, that's very odd, very weird." So anyway, I kind of forgot about it, and a couple months later, my brother calls to tell the family that him and his wife are expecting their second baby. And I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is so exciting." I said, "Do you know what you're having?" And they said, "Yeah, it's going to be a girl." And I was like, "Oh, do you have any names picked out?" And they said, "Yeah, we do. It's Raina Lee." I was like, "What?" They're like, "Yeah, it's Raina Lee." And I was like, "Oh my God." At that point, I completely got chills. I mean, think that name is so rare. It literally just blew my mind. So what a crazy little thing. Could be a coincidence, but I don't know, maybe not.
I've always thought that my daughter was my grandmother reincarnated. I gave her a picture of her today and
What is the creepiest thing your kid has ever said to you?
Well, I was in bed with my 3-year-old reading her a bedtime book, and she said, "Ah, here are those black people." I'm like, "What black people?" She's like, the black people with the red eyes, right there. And she points, and I look, and I say, there's nobody there. And she says, you can't see them? I'm like, no. And she's like, they're right there. I'm like, what are they doing? She's like, there's a line of them. They're just walking by and disappearing into the wall. They come every night. You really can't see them? I mean, she's 3.5. She was flabbergasted that I couldn't see them. I immediately ripped that child up, put her in my bed, and then I slept with the full light, not a night light, a full light for over 4 years. I mean, and she continued to see them until she was about 5 or 6, and she still remembers seeing them to this day.
That's a video, guys. So I'm just here also to share my true sense, like what I think about today's video. What is the creepiest thing a kid has ever taught you? Okay, so I want to tell you this. So it's funny how kids can have this uncanny habit to start at things that felt out of place, almost as if they're seeing or knowing something they should not be able to at their age. I'm sure many of you have those unsettling moments with children where the words leave you questioning the boundaries between the innocent and the unexplained. Okay, whether it's a strange remark about a past life or any prediction about the future. Kids seem to have a way of talking about things that don't make sense. It's like they have the mystery access to another realm of thought, a place where the lines between the known and unknown get a little blurry. So today we're going to be talking about the creepiest things kids have ever said to me, and I'm sure some of these stories will stick to you, with you along have you heard them. One of the creepiest things a child has said to me happened during a family gathering. It was a typical afternoon. People were chatting, kids were running around playing their games, and there was this one little boy, not older than 4 or 5. He was sitting quietly in a corner drawing when he looked up and casually asked, do you remember what happened before you were born? At first, I thought it was a joke, okay, and curious. I child question about life and death, but the way he said it, it wasn't with a wonder you expect from a kid. It felt more like he was genuinely asking if I remember something, as if he knew something I did not know. I tried to brush it off, but the most for the rest of the evening, I couldn't stop thinking about it. Why would a child, especially at that age, bring up something so deep, so external? It was almost as if he knew there was a time before this one. Then there was a time I was babysitting for a friend, and their daughter, who was about 6, was showing me her toys. She was playing with a little stuffed bear and started talking to it, saying, I remember when we used to live in the other house. I used to cry all the time, but you made me feel better. She wasn't referring to the house they currently lived in, but some place that she didn't have been in years. I asked her what she meant, but she just looked at me with these wide eyes and repeated, the other house where we used to live. It was a specific memory for a child who couldn't have possibly remembered anything of that, and yet she was so convinced. I've also had a child tell me about a friend they had who, according to them, would come and visit them at night. The child, around 5 years old, described this friend as someone who looked like a grown up but always covered in a dark shadow. The creepiest part, the kids said they couldn't see their face, but they felt safe with the person, as if though a shadowed figure and had been with them for a long time. The child seemed to so calm talking about it, like it was just another normal part of their life. But for me, I couldn't shake the unease. I felt like hearing about a friend that no one else could see. I mean, what do you do when a kid describes something like that? There was also the uncertain feeling when kids talk about things they shouldn't know, like the time a child asked me, do you ever feel like someone is watching you? Even when you are all alone, it wasn't just a simple question. It was said with a sort of knowing tone, as if they have experienced it themselves. But the strangest part was they were looking at me like they were waiting for me to confirm that I knew what they were talking about, as if they wanted to share this secret. It wasn't like they were tapping into some kind of collective uneasy that I didn't even realize I was feeling. And let's not forget those moments where kids start talking about things from the past, people they have never met or places they've never been. One time as a child, I was talking to, there was a child which I was talking to who couldn't have been more than 3, began mentioning a name, Grandpa Jim. They describe him in such a detail, his laughter, his odd blue shirt, and even the way he smelled like a pine tree. The tree was there. They didn't have a Grandpa Jim. They had never met anyone by the name, and as far as the family could tell, there was no one even close to the description. Yet the child seemed absolutely sure of Grandpa Jimmy was. When I asked about him, the child said, smiled, and said he is not here anymore, but I still miss him. Sometimes kids will talk about their imaginary friends with correlating and a conviction that leaves you feeling unsettled. One child I knew had an imaginary friend named Charlie, but Charlie wasn't like the other imaginary friends. This one, according to the child, was an adult too, wearing an old-fashioned suit with dark eyes that never blinked. The child seemed fine with it, but as they described Charlie in such a specific detail, I couldn't help but feel a sense of like they were comfortable with it, too accepting and all. So these moments, as strange and unsettling as they can, I also what make kids so fascinating. They seem to have the ability to tap into things we don't fully understand, whether it's crispy into a past life, a deep setting, instruction about something we can't explain, or simple imagination running wild. The things they say can be enough to make anyone question what really they know about the world around us. So next time the child says something that gives you the feeling, oh, this is not right, remember, maybe seeing things you just can't, and that itself, it's pretty creepy. So thanks for watching. Bye bye.